I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Lauren.
Welcome to the first ever AJC Virtual Global Forum.
For those of you who have joined us at GloFo before, welcome back. For those of you who are new to American Jewish Committee programs, AJC is the premier global Jewish advocacy organization. Though you'll learn more about us over the coming days, we encourage you to visit ajc.org to learn more about who we are and what we do.
AJC Global Forum was scheduled to be in Berlin this year, our first ever global forum on European soil, to mark 75 years since the end of World War II. It was going to be a historic event, which we were forced to cancel due to the COVID-19 pandemic. While we are sad not to be in Berlin, we are excited to be making history in a new way by expanding our global forum to an even larger audience.
Get ready for 5 days of high-level addresses, conversations, and fiery debates. Amidst these challenging times, AJC continues to focus on the issues that matter.
Without further ado, let the AJC Virtual Global Forum begin.
"75 years after World War II and 30 years after reunification,
tear down this wall."
Germany once again looms large for the Jewish people. As an ascendant nation that is again home to a vibrant and growing Jewish community, as a pivotal component to the transatlantic alliance, and as a vital partner to Israel. Now, more than 20 years after AJC became the first American Jewish organization with a permanent presence in Berlin, history will be made again when a groundbreaking gathering convenes. AJC Global Forum comes to Berlin and presents an unparalleled opportunity. For all who want to make history and show the world the impact of global Jewish advocacy. Join us for a truly historic event, AJC Global Forum 2020.
New developments in the coronavirus emergency.
More than 272 million people being told to shelter in place.
Entire industries have frozen during the coronavirus pandemic.
New announcements of events being canceled.
As health officials advise people to avoid crowds.
The unemployment rate has skyrocketed to its highest level since the Great Depression.
The death toll in the U.S. now officially topping 110,000.
A staggering number reached at a shocking pace.
Several people stabbed during a Hanukkah celebration in New York.
Hate crimes are up in most major cities.
More than half were anti-Jewish, far more than hate crimes targeting any other religious group.
Tens of thousands took to the streets honoring George Floyd and protesting racism.
Across the country, the calls for justice are growing more intense.
Hands up! Don't shoot!
Tensions still are high on Israel's northern border as Iran promises to punish Israel.
The start of a new era in terms of Britain's relations with the European Union.
The two most powerful countries on earth are slipping deeper and deeper into a profound form of conflict.
Some worry this means America's days as a global leader are numbered.
The issue of anti-Semitism in America today is serious enough that it should capture the attention of all political leaders of both parties.
Rallying around the social media hashtag #ShowUpForShabbat, started by the American Jewish Committee.
Germany banned all Hezbollah activity and designated the Iran-backed group a terrorist organization.
Convening at the Global Forum reflects the strong ties between Israel and the AJC global community. AJC has always stood by Israel. We need the clear moral voice of the American Jewish Committee.
You have fought for the core values that drive democracies.
This is part of our Staatsräson, meaning the national interests of my home country. The security of Israel and the Jewish people are not negotiable to us.
History has just been made here at the AJC Global Forum.
And I want to announce the launch of the Congressional Caucus on Black-Jewish Relationships.
American Jewish Committee declared that Jews cannot ensure equality for themselves until and unless it is assured for all.
Hello, AJC. This is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo here. I want to thank Chief Executive Officer David Harris for inviting me. I'm sorry that we can't all be together here in person today. The United States and Israel are blessed nations, and we share a very special bond. I had the honor of visiting Israel 4 times as Secretary of State, most recently just a few weeks back. As a Christian, being in Israel is deeply moving. It's a moving experience for me. And our bilateral partnership is all the more vital given the rise in anti-Semitism around the world. I truly do admire the crucial work that AJC is doing to fight back. With Special Envoy Alon Carr, you pushed for the adoption and implementation of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. You're confronting the vile BDS movement and textbooks that teach innocent Palestinian children to hate Jews, making peace just that much harder. The Trump administration is with you. The president's vision for peace is the most realistic path to end the conflict for the good of both the Israeli and Palestinian people. The United States will always support Israel's right to defend itself. Anti-Zionism is indeed anti-Semitism. Nowhere is our support clearer than with how we've addressed the world's #1 state sponsor of anti-Semitism, the Islamic Republic of Iran. We pulled out of the awful Iran nuclear deal, and our maximum pressure campaign is showing results. We will continue to squeeze the regime until Iran behaves like a normal nation and stops threatening its own people and its neighbors. The mullahs must never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. We're also standing up to the Chinese Communist Party, a growing challenge to the United States, to Israel, indeed to all free people. Beijing's opaque military buildup, reckless indifference to its internal obligations, and disinformation campaigns endanger us all. We all must be alert to the Chinese Communist Party's threat to our way of life. Standing against bad actors is at the core of America's values. Both of our nations are rooted in respect for God-given rights, individual freedom, and human equality. Next month, the State Department's Commission on Unalienable Rights will release its report. It will show how shared principles bring us closer to friends like Israel. Since 1948, Israel has proven, time and time again, that it's up to any challenge in defense of the Jewish people's right to govern themselves in their ancestral homeland. With the AJC's help, the United States and Israel will proudly honor our shared foundations in freedom and democracy as we confront the challenges of our day. Thank you all for having me here, and may God bless you all.
My name is Julian Planer. I am a Holocaust survivor. My story can be summarized as follows. The Nazis looked for me, but didn't find me. Be it luck or destiny, those that searched for Jews didn't discover me. That is why I survived. I was born in the coastal town of Ostend, Belgium in 1939. Because my parents were Belgian citizens, Unlike many foreign Jews and stateless Jews in Belgium, we were only forced to leave Ostend in October 1942. Only much later did I realize that by then, the Nazis had already rounded up thousands of Jews and sent them to their deaths. We ended up in Brussels. My parents went into hiding, and I was given to a family of Gentiles. For 2 years, we were forced to be apart. But we were actually living only 2 blocks away from each other. This picture was taken in the streets of Brussels in October 43. Brussels was liberated on the evening of September 3rd, 1944. I was, thankfully, immediately reunited with my parents. My mother had 2 brothers who left Belgium in 1940 and served in the American Army. These 2 uncles settled in America after the war. We stayed in Belgium. But my son later moved to Israel, where he has a wife and my 2 granddaughters, who by now are both married. And I am now even a great-grandfather, thanks to wonderful Yaeli, born in November. Thankfully, my Jewish continuity has been safeguarded through them. There is a famous saying that the pessimists from Europe went to America, while the optimists went to Auschwitz. We were spared the fate of the quote-unquote optimists. I am participating in the AJC's virtual global forum today in memory of all those Jews in Belgium and across Europe who were not as lucky as I was. Today, I'm here to say that never again is not a certainty, but it is surely an obligation.
My name is Harriet Schleifer. My parents were Holocaust survivors from Poland. Most of their immediate family and relatives were murdered in Treblinka. My father was the sole survivor of his family. He was 20 years old when Germany invaded Poland. He was sent from the large, then the Kleine ghetto, to a munitions factory slave labor camp. He was a kind and courageous man who did whatever he could to help others. After he died, a woman I had never met contacted me. She said, "I want to tell you that, if not for your father, I would have died. He snuck out of the ghetto and risked his life to get me medicine. I was on the verge of death." In the munitions factory, he also secretly sabotaged machinery. My mother was married to someone else before the war. She lost everyone except her brother. My father and mother knew each other as children and ended up together in the slave labor camp as a couple. After the war, they came to America. Here, they made happy lives from nothing, raising my sister and me with a deep sense of gratitude. My mother once said, "Harriet, life can be so beautiful." My jaw dropped. This from someone who squeezed her mother's hand on the selection line just before they were separated and lost 4 brothers in the Treblinka uprising. I always strived to fill the holes in my parents' lives. I wanted to make sure that no harm ever came to them again, that they would never again be victims or feel fear. That drive created a strong Jewish identity to my very core. It made me a lifelong Jewish advocate. I'm participating in the AJC Virtual Global Forum in honor of my beloved parents. I am committed to continuing their legacy. I need to ensure that future generations have the same sense of Jewish identity in their heads, their hearts, and in their kishkas. I want to help ensure that Jewish peoplehood and Jewish identity thrive around the world, that the victims of the Shoah, including so many of my family, did not die in vain. Today, I am here to say that no one should ever have to hide their Jewish identity. All human beings deserve dignity and respect. We must protect Jews. We must protect all vulnerable communities. We must build bridges and join hands so that no one is ever attacked simply for who they are. AJC is my vehicle through which I pursue these goals. As global Jewish advocates, we speak up, we speak out, and we must, as my parents taught me.
My name is Eric Adamson. My grandfather was born in Königsberg, Germany, then the capital of East Prussia. Today, it's known as Kaliningrad in Russia. In 1933, after my grandfather's father died, he moved to Frankfurt-Oder with his mother and sister. There, he attended a public school, but often on the way home, he was taunted by his classmates, being called Judenjunge, or Jew boy in English. He was eventually expelled from the school for being Jewish, at which point his parents sent him to Berlin to live in a Jewish home for children and students who were also living far away from their parents. He was also bar mitzvahed in Berlin. But in 1938, as his situation continued to deteriorate, he hopped on the Kindertransport to Westgate, England, and he lived with a family who was sheltering other Jewish children. During the war, he was living in London and worked in a factory building bombers for the British Royal Air Force. After the war, he enlisted in the 9th US Air Force Division, working as an interpreter and a special investigator into Nazi crimes. He was also used as an interpreter when the camps in Mauthausen, Austria, were liberated, one of the most infamous Nazi camps. There, he saw the horrors that the Nazis had inflicted on the Jewish people. In 1949, he went to the US to start a new life. I'm participating in the AJC Virtual Global Forum to honor his strength, courage, and service on behalf of the Allied forces, the forces that saved the world. Today, I work for AJC in Berlin, the city my grandfather once fled, to ensure that Jewish life can have a vibrant future in Germany and Europe, a life my grandfather was denied.
My name is Remco Lempus. I stand before you today in two roles. As a German, I'm the grandson of the Nazi preparatory generation, which is incredibly painful and shameful to admit. And because of this, I feel a tremendous responsibility to help make sure that Jews and Israel, the Jewish state, will never again have to fear for their safety or their lives. This brings me to my second role. It is not by accident that I was so eager to work for AJC. I'm honored today to be director of the AJC Berlin office. While I can't undo my family's or Germany's past, I can help shape the future, along with everyone participating in the AJC Global Forum, and the person you're about to hear from now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. Angela Merkel.
Sehr geehrter Herr Harris, sehr geehrte Delegierte und Freunde des AJC, meine Damen und Herren. Herzlich begrüße ich Sie zum virtuellen Global Forum des AJC. Es hat mich tief berührt, dass das AJC sein Global Forum 2020 eigentlich in Berlin durchführen wollte. Ausgerechnet in Berlin. Und ausgerechnet im 75. Jahr nach Ende des Zivilisationsbruchs der Shoah. Was für eine großherzige Geste des Vertrauens und der gewachsenen Verbundenheit. Es war auch das AJC, das als erste jüdische Organisation nach dem größten Menschheitsverbrechen die Zusammenarbeit mit der damals noch jungen Bundesrepublik gesucht hat. Wenn ich daran denke, fühle ich tiefe Dankbarkeit und Demut. Aus der Bereitschaft zum Dialog und zur Versöhnung ist über die Jahre längst eine enge Partnerschaft erwachsen. Wir wissen um unsere Verantwortung, der vielen Millionen jüdischer Kinder, Frauen und Männer zu gedenken, die während der Shoah von Deutschen entrechtet, verfolgt und ermordet wurden. Und wir wissen um unsere Verantwortung, gegen Antisemitismus in all seinen Ausprägungen entschlossen vorzugehen. Das verstehe ich als Teil unserer Staatsräson. Unser Staatswesen und unser friedliches Zusammenleben bauen auf grundlegenden Werten auf. Und mit diesen Werten sind Antisemitismus und Rassismus, Hass und Hetze, ob in sozialen Medien oder auf offener Straße, unvereinbar. Solchen Auswüchsen müssen wir, Regierung und Gesellschaft, mit aller Macht und Kraft entgegenwirken. Leider erleben wir immer wieder bittere Rückschläge. Besonders das Attentat auf die Synagoge in Halle hat uns tief erschüttert. Solche widerwärtigen Angriffe zielen auf das Herz unserer Demokratie. Unsere Gesellschaft lebt von kultureller und religiöser Vielfalt und Toleranz. Jüdinnen und Juden sollen sich in Deutschland frei und sicher fühlen. Sie sollen ihren Glauben und ihre Kultur offen leben können. Das gehört zum Selbstverständnis unserer gesamten Gesellschaft als Verantwortungsgemeinschaft. Zu unserer Verantwortung zählt auch, für die Sicherheit Israels einzutreten. Diese ist nicht verhandelbar. Und auch dies möchte ich anmerken. Dauerhafter Frieden in Nahost lässt sich nur durch Verständigung zwischen den Völkern und eine verhandelte Zwei-Staaten-Lösung erreichen. Davon bin und bleibe ich überzeugt. Im Wissen um unsere Verantwortung können und wollen wir nicht neutral bleiben. Und gerade auch im Bewusstsein unserer Verantwortung vor der Geschichte dürfen wir nicht nachlassen, uns für Sicherheit, für gelebte Demokratie und Menschenrechte einzusetzen. Bei uns in Deutschland wie auch in der Welt. Und dabei ist es gut zu wissen, auf Partner zählen zu dürfen. Starke Partner, wie wir sie auch und besonders im AJC finden. Ich bin Ihnen von Herzen dankbar für Ihr unermüdliches und vielfältiges Wirken für Frieden und interreligiöse Verständigung. Ich wünschte, ich könnte Sie persönlich in Berlin begrüßen. Das ist leider nicht möglich. Umso herzlicher grüße ich Sie nun auf diesem Weg und wünsche Ihnen ein gelungenes virtuelles Global Forum. Alles Gute für Sie und viel Erfolg für Ihre weitere Arbeit. Herzlichen Dank.
We're here in a place of incredible destruction and loss.
This was a history-making day for a group of Jewish leaders and Muslim leaders from around the world to come together and affirm our common commitment to remembering the past and fighting for a better future is something very special.
Your responsible leadership demonstrates the power of speaking up and standing in solidarity with people outside one's own community. AJC is proud to be a friend and ally to Muslims of goodwill from all around the world.
If you want to defend your community, and if you want to fight anti-Semitism, and if you want to fight for your well-being, you have to fight for the well-being of all communities. That is what we have done and what we continue to do.
لا شك أن هذا اللقاء سيحمل رسالة مهمة للعالم، فقد اجتمع الجميع من مختلف المذاهب والأديان ليكونوا يداً واحدة في مشاعرهم وفي عزيمتهم.
The mere fact of sitting together, think about it. We can actually bring God deeper into our lives.
كما نسأله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا مفاتيح لهذا الخير وأيضاً مغاليق لهذا الشر.
My name is Bawa Jain. I serve as the founding Secretary General for the World Council of Religious Leaders, the founder and president of the Center for Responsible Leadership. It is an honor for me this morning to join you at the AJC's Virtual Global Forum to introduce a dear friend and a dear brother, His Excellency Mohammad bin Abdul Karim Al-Issa, the Secretary General of the Muslim World League. I'm honored to join you because of our special relationship with AJC's CEO, my dear brother, David Harris. Let me just tell you how this all began. When Dr. Al-Issa took over as the Secretary of the Muslim World League a couple of years ago, we were approached to introduce him to some prominent leaders, especially in the United States of America and the UN community. So I said to him very frankly, I said, Excellency, would you be willing to meet with the senior leaders and have a frank conversation, no subjects off the table? And he said, yes, he would. So last year, early part of 2019, he traveled to the United States of America. Amongst the leaders, and there were very important leaders who came to meet Dr. Al-Issa, was David Harris, the CEO of American Jewish Committee. And those of you who know David Harris, he is very crisp, very clear. He had 5 clear points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I found them absolutely challenging. So I talked to Dr. Al-Issa and I said, Excellency, these are the 5 points which David Harris would like to discuss. And what is your opinion? He says, absolutely, we can discuss. So when we discussed, the first point was Dr. Al-Issa going for the 75th anniversary of the Holocaust to Auschwitz. Now this was absolutely earth-shattering to me. A person of Dr. Al-Issa's caliber traveling to Auschwitz for the 75th anniversary of the Holocaust, it became a very personal moment for me. One of the most memorable moments of my life, I can say, without hesitation. And Dr. Al-Issa was very sincere. He brought a senior delegation of over 60 Muslim leaders of all brands of Islam. It was an absolutely breathtaking, memorable moment. You need 2 good, viable partners. And I'm honored that both of them I can call as brothers, David Harris and Dr. Al-Issa. There's a certain trust which has been built. And I know there are some critical things which are important for the American Jewish Committee and the Muslim World League. For the American Jewish Committee, I know that David Harris has tried in the 20th century on reconciling with Germany about the Holocaust. And I know very well now for the 21st century, he is very focused on building Muslim-Jewish relations. It could not augur better, but have you not had these 2 great people, responsible leaders, who together came last year and signed a memorandum of understanding at our first Responsible Leaders Summit. And coming here this morning at the American Jewish Committee's Global Forum virtually, this was the second part of that commitment. That's why it's so important that Dr. Al-Issa, even though he cannot travel, he said, I will absolutely do it. And I'm honored to introduce to you His Excellency Dr. Mohammad bin Abdul Karim Al-Issa, the Secretary General of the Muslim World League, a former Minister of Justice of the Saudi government. And more importantly, in my mind, the most important thing, his appointment comes directly from the custodian of the 2 holy mosques. That is a title above being the king of Saudi Arabia. This is the senior most Sunni Muslim leader in the world, in my opinion. So it's my honor to introduce to you His Excellency Dr. Mohammad bin Abdul Karim Al-Issa, the Secretary General of the Muslim World League.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السادة أعضاء اللجنة اليهودية الأمريكية، زملائي قادة الأديان، أصحاب الفخامة والدولة، أصحاب المعالي، السيدات والسادة، إنه لمن دواعي سروري أن أكون معكم هذا اليوم وأن أغتنم هذه الفرصة لأعرب عن عميق تقديري لصديقي العزيز السيد ديفيد هيريس واللجنة اليهودية الأمريكية لدعوتي للتحدث في هذه الجلسة الافتتاحية برفقة قيادات عالمية حققت الكثير من الإنجازات والتغييرات الإيجابية. كما أود أن أشيد بجهودكم الدؤوبة وتفانيكم لإعادة بناء العلاقات الإيجابية بين المسلمين واليهود، وهذا دليل على القيم الرفيعة للجنة اليهودية الأمريكية التي تندد بقوة بعمل أولئك الذين يزرعون الانقسامات وينشرون الإسلام فوبيا، وأيضا ضد أولئك الذين يروجون لمعاداة السامية. ولفخامة السيدة أنجيلا ميركل المستشارة الألمانية أقول إن شجاعتكم في استقبال بعض المسلمين الأبرياء الذين فروا بحثا عن السلامة والأمن من منازلهم التي دمرتها الحروب لهو موقف إنساني رائع، فأنتم رمز للتكاتف الذي هو جزء من نسيج الحياة الاجتماعية في ألمانيا. وعندما تحدثتم عن كون الإسلام جزءا من المجتمع الألماني، كان هذا موضع تقدير كبير في جميع أنحاء العالم الإسلامي. شكرا لكم مرة أخرى على استخدامكم لصوتكم من أجل الخير، وإنه لا يسرني أن أكون معكم، خاصة وأن العالم يحتفل في هذه اللحظة المحورية في التاريخ بالذكرى 75 لنهاية الحرب العالمية الثانية. قبل 75 عاما دمر النازيون العالم بأعمالهم المعادية. سعى هؤلاء الإرهابيون، ولا توجد كلمة أفضل لوصفهم من هذه الكلمة، سعوا إلى تصدير أيديولوجيتهم المشوهة والمخزية للعالم باستخدام الكراهية والعنف، وذلك من أجل خلق عالم منقسم وعليل، عالم متجرد من كل قيم العدالة والرحمة. لقد أوشكوا أن ينجحوا في ذلك، لكنهم أساءوا تقدير الثبات والإرادة القوية لعدوهم، تلك الأرواح الشجاعة التي نعتبرها ضمن عائلتنا وأصدقائنا. فشل النازيون كذلك في إدراك أنه حتى في أحلك الأوقات يبقى هناك بصيص من الأمل، ورفضت قوى الخير الاستسلام واستمرت في معركتها لإيجاد عالم أفضل وأكثر مساواة، إن لم يكن لأنفسهم فللأجيال القادمة. وفي نهاية المطاف وقفنا سويا منتصرين، وتعهدنا بعدم السماح لفظائع الحرب العالمية الثانية أن تتكرر مرة أخرى. علمتنا الحرب العالمية الثانية عددا من الدروس المهمة التي نحملها معنا اليوم. من هذه الدروس أننا نتشارك في قيم وقواسم متأصلة تربطنا كبشر، بغض النظر عن العرق أو الدين أو الجنس أو الجنسية أو الإثنية أو أي تصنيف آخر مماثل. ومثل ما وقفت قوى الخير جنبا إلى جنب أو ضد الشر في ساحات القتال في أوروبا منذ سنوات عديدة، يجب علينا اليوم أن نتحد ضد الذين يروجون للكراهية والتعصب. ومع مرور كل يوم يزداد عالمنا ترابطا بفعل إرادة الخير ودحر إرادة الشر، وهو ما يجعلنا نستشعر أهمية توثيق علاقاتنا الأخوية بمنطقها العادل والحكيم. إننا نرى كل يوم كيف يفضي التطرف والكراهية التي يتم ترويجها عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي بكل سهولة، كيف تفضي إلى أعمال إرهابية يمكن أن تهدد مجتمعاتنا. لننظر إلى الهجمات الفظيعة على المعابد اليهودية في بيتسبرغ وفي سان دييغو، في مونسي بنيويورك، وفي مدينة هالا بألمانيا، أو الهجوم المريع على الجالية الإسلامية في كرايست تشيرش بنيوزيلندا، أو هجمات عيد الفصح على الكنيسة في سريلانكا. كانت هذه أفعال أشخاص مرضى تقودهم قناعات فاسدة، ولكنها تبرز أيضا المهمة التي نواجهها جميعا للتصدي للمتطرفين والإرهابيين في كل المجتمعات. هؤلاء الأشخاص حول العالم يدعون زورا أنهم يستوحون إلهامهم من نصوص دينية مقدسة أو شعارات وطنية أو الإحساس المريض بالنقاء العرقي أو الإثني. هزيمة الشر حول العالم وبكافة أيديولوجياته وخلفياته هي مهمة كبيرة ترتكز على دور التعليم والأسرة وكذلك منصات التأثير، ويجب علينا أن نسهم في تمكينها بمساعدتها دون توقف. ولا نستطيع أن نربح هذه المعركة إلا بتضافر الجهود، وذلك من خلال تعزيز قيم التفاهم والتسامح والتعاطف وصولا إلى محبة بعضنا لبعض. منذ أن توليت زمام الأمور في رابطة العالم الإسلامي، جعلت من مهام العمل مع إخواننا وأخواتنا أتباع الديانة اليهودية إعادة نسيج علاقاتنا مع بعض، والتي بدأت قبل قرون عند بداية الإسلام، ولكن في السنوات الأخيرة شهدنا تباعدا بيننا، حيث تم الخلط بين السياسة والدين، وبسبب غياب منطق العدالة الشاملة التي يجب أن تسود سلام مجتمعاتنا، ولا يكون هذا إلا بالوعي والصدق والحكمة. قبل عامين وبالنيابة عن رابطة العالم الإسلامي كتبت رسالة إلى السيدة سارة بلومفيلد مديرة متحف الهولوكوست بالولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، أعربت فيها عن تعاطفنا الكبير مع ضحايا المحرقة، وأن هذه الحادثة هزت البشرية في الصميم، وعبرت عن تضامننا في مكافحة جريمة إنكار المحرقة. حقيقة كنت أمام مفاجأة سيل كبير من المكالمات والرسائل ورسائل البريد الإلكتروني وردت من علماء وقيادات إسلامية كبيرة من جميع أنحاء العالم، يعبرون عن تأييدهم وموافقتهم بالكامل على ما قلناه في هذا. لقد عبروا في الواقع عن عدالة الإسلام ومنطقه الإنساني حيال تلك الجريمة البشعة. وعدد من هؤلاء العلماء كانوا معنا لاحقا في أوشفيتس. منذ ذلك الوقت بذلت رابطة العالم الإسلامي جهودا متضافرة للتواصل مع مجتمع الديانة اليهودية. واليهود بنص القرآن الكريم هم أهل كتاب، وهم بنص القرآن الكريم لهم امتيازات في الأحكام الفقهية الإسلامية، هم والمسيحيون. وعبر مسار التاريخ فإن عموم الخلافات التي جرى النص عليها كانت سياسية ولا علاقة لها بأصل الدين، لأن الإسلام يتحدث عن حقيقته الإلهية وليس ضد حق الأديان الأخرى في الوجود. وفي اجتماعاتنا مع القادة الدينيين اليهود في عدد من الدول في الشرق الأوسط وفي الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية وأوروبا وجدنا مشتركات كثيرة. أدركنا أننا نتشارك في مخاوفنا من التعصب المتزايد والتهديدات التي تواجه مجتمعاتنا، وأيضا نتشارك في عزمنا على بناء عالم أكثر وعيا وتسامحا، عالم يحكمه السلم العادل والشامل. يدرك المسلمون اليهود جيدا الخطر الذي يشكله المتطرفون بجميع أنواعهم، وهم يسعون إلى استغلال انعدام الاستقرار لتعزيز الكراهية والعنف، ولا سيما النازيين الجدد. نحن الآن أمام تحديات هذه الجائحة العالمية والتي قتلت الكثير من الأبرياء وتسببت في تداعيات اقتصادية أفقدت البعض وظائفهم ومدخراتهم حول العالم. لذا يجب أن نكون أكثر حذرا بخصوص تبعات هذا التهديد. الطريقة الوحيدة التي يمكننا التغلب بها على العدو المشترك هي من خلال العمل المشترك كوحدة متكاتفة تبني جسور الحوار والتعاون بالمنطق العادل والشامل، وتقبل التنوع والأفكار المختلفة، وتدعم المهمشين والمهملين في المجتمعات حول العالم، وأيضا ترفض اللامبالاة وتحمينا من التطرف العنيف والأيديولوجيا المتطرفة. ولهذا كان من المهم على رابطة العالم الإسلامي بناء علاقة جيدة مع اللجنة اليهودية الأمريكية، وهذه اللجنة في طليعة المنظمات المحاربة لمعاداة السامية، والتي تدعو للتعاون بين مختلف أتباع الأديان والمعتقدات لنصنع معا مستقبلا أفضل للجميع، ومقدرين في ذات الوقت ما يقوم به عدد من أعضاء هذه اللجنة من مواقف شجاعة في مواجهة كافة أشكال العنصرية والكراهية، ومن ذلك محاربة الإسلاموفوبيا. في العام الماضي عززنا علاقتنا بالتوقيع على اتفاقية تاريخية للتعاون ضد العنصرية والتطرف بجميع أشكاله. إحدى الركائز الأساسية لهذه الاتفاقية هو التعبير عن تضامننا بزيارة معسكر الموت النازي في أوشفيتس، والتي قمنا بها في وقت سابق من هذا العام لإحياء الذكرى السنوية 75 لتحرير المعسكر، حيث ترأست فيها وفدا إسلاميا رفيع المستوى من كبار علماء المسلمين ومن مختلف الدول الإسلامية ومن مختلف أيضا الطوائف الإسلامية من سنة وشيعة وغيرهم. في ذلك اليوم والذي لا ينسى وقفت مع إخواني المسلمين واليهود متحدين وقلنا بكل عزم لن يحدث هذا مرة أخرى إن شاء الله تعالى، لن يحدث لليهود ولا للمسلمين ولا للمسيحيين ولا لغيرهم. أهوال محرقة الهولوكوست لا ينبغي أن تتكرر أو أن ننساها. الأدلة القاطعة للفظائع المرتكبة ضد الرجال والنساء والأطفال الأبرياء هزتنا جميعا. رأينا أحذية الأطفال وبقايا الشعر وحقائب السفر والمتعلقات الشخصية الأخرى لأولئك الذين فقدوا هناك. أيضا رأينا الثكنات الشبيهة بالسجون، حيث كان يجبر الرجال والنساء والأطفال على العيش، ورأينا بقايا غرف الغاز حيث تم تجريد تلك النفوس الضعيفة من ملابسها وتم قتلها. وشاهدنا المرافق الطبية التي أجرى فيها الأطباء النازيون تجارب بشعة على الضحايا. نعم، ذرفت الدموع بمجرد التفكير في مثل هذه الجرائم المروعة. هذه قيمنا الإسلامية والإنسانية. أكثر من 1,000,000 رجل وامرأة وطفل فقدوا أرواحهم في أوشفيتس، وهذا شيء لا يمكننا أن ننساه. يجب على المسلمين وغيرهم أن يستوعبوا هذا الدرس من صفحات التاريخ، فدروس المحرقة عالمية، ولا يزال خطر الإبادة الجماعية معنا نشعر به حتى الآن. لقد كتبت أنا والسيد ديفيد هيريس في صحيفة شيكاغو تريبيون، وذلك بعد أيام فقط من زيارتنا لأوشفيتس، قلنا على المسلمين واليهود مسؤولية توظيف جميع نفوذهم لوقف هذه المعاناة فوراً. ما نواجهه هو بالفعل خطر حقيقي ملموس. انظروا ماذا حدث في البوسنة وفي رواندا قبل جيل واحد فقط، حيث تحولت الكراهية العرقية أو الدينية بكل سهولة إلى إبادة جماعية. وكذلك المحنة التي يمر بها إخواننا الروهينجا في ميانمار اليوم، وهم ما زالوا يتعرضون لهذا التمييز والعنف والإرهاب النابع عن العنصرية. وهذه كلها جرائم ضد الإسلام وضد الإنسانية، بغض النظر عمن هو الجاني ومن هم الضحايا. كمسلمين فإن واجبنا الديني والأخلاقي أن نقف ضد هذه الانتهاكات المجردة من كل القيم. بلا شك العالم الذي نعيش فيه هو مكان خطير، ولكن السنوات الأخيرة التي شهدت إعادة بناء العلاقات بين الدين الإسلامي والدين اليهودي تمنحني الكثير من الأمل لغد أكثر إشراقا، غد يتسم بالحوار الموضوعي وصولا إلى التفاهم وتحقيق السلام العادل والشامل. ولن يعيق هذا الأمل سوى القرارات والتصرفات الخاطئة التي تزيد الأمور تعقيدا. في هذا العصر قد يبدو لنا أن الكراهية تنتشر بسهولة أكثر من السابق عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، ولكن أعتقد أننا نكسب هذه الحرب بخطوات ثابتة وإن كانت بطيئة. فنحن أبرمنا شراكات يدافع فيها المسلمون واليهود والعديد من المسيحيين وأتباع الديانات والمعتقدات الأخرى يدافعون عن القيم المشتركة، ويقومون بتثقيف مجتمعاتهم المتنوعة حول تلك المشتركات. نحن نكافح معا من أجل عالم أفضل وأكثر مساواة، لا مكان فيه للإسلاموفوبيا ولا لمعاداة السامية أو أي شكل آخر من أشكال التمييز. سننتصر بإذن الله تعالى لأن الحق معنا. أكونوا على ثقة بأن رابطة العالم الإسلامي ستتواصل في جهودها كل يوم لتعزيز القيم الإسلامية المعتدلة التي تدعو إلى السلام والحب والتعايش. نعم، الإسلام المعتدل يعارض تماما العنف ضد أي حياة بريئة. نحن سعداء بالعمل مع شركاء مثل اللجنة اليهودية الأمريكية الذين يقدرون قدسية الحياة البشرية للجميع تماما كما نقدرها نحن. شكرا لكم مرة أخرى على دعوتكم لي للتحدث هنا اليوم، وأتطلع إلى العمل معكم جميعا للدفع بقضية التفاهم والتسامح والتعاطف والحب وسلام عالمنا العادل والشامل. وشكرا لمتابعتكم.
It's a very special honor for me to be here in the opening session of the AJC Virtual Global Forum in the company of 3 generations of Holocaust families, together with the distinguished U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, with the outstanding Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, with one of the world's great interfaith leaders, Bawa Jain, and with one of the great leaders of Islam, Dr. Mohammad Al-Issa, with whom we traveled so memorably to Auschwitz in January of this year. Of course, the virtual global forum was not intended to be virtual. It was the mother of necessity. Rather, it was intended to be an in-person meeting, something totally groundbreaking, something previously unseen in Germany. In fact, we were told it was going to be the largest Jewish advocacy expression in post-war German history. But alas, because of COVID-19, we had to cancel. It was a painful decision, I assure you. But we reverted to the virtual global forum, and we're thrilled with the program that has emerged. Our decision to hold the global forum in Berlin in 2020 was not, by any stretch of the imagination, a whimsical decision. Rather, it was sort of the natural outgrowth of 75 years of AJC engagement with Germany. beginning shortly after the end of the war in 1945. You see, for the Jewish world generally, and it's something I totally understand, they wanted nothing to do with Germany. Rather, they wanted to shun Germany, to isolate Germany, to consign Germany to permanent hell. As a child of survivors, both my mother and my father and my larger extended family, I could have completely understood that feeling of wanting to isolate Germany. But AJC's leaders were far more prescient in recognizing that you couldn't adopt that as a strategy, that Germany was simply potentially too big, too powerful, too centrally located, not just geographically, but historically, to pretend that it no longer existed. And rather, they began to engage with Germany. It wasn't easy in 1945, 46, 47. It was not universally popular, not among Jews, and frankly, not in Germany itself. But they had no choice because they understood that what would happen to Germany would be materially consequential to the Jewish people going forward and to the larger world. And so they began working with the US occupation authorities in Germany. After 1949, when Germany became a freestanding country, they began to probe the government and various institutions. And their focus at the time, laser-like, was how to ensure that Germany would become a democratic country, how to ensure that it would become a peaceful, law-abiding country. And I could take you through a very long history. Fortunately for you, I don't have to, because this week we're publishing a very detailed history of those 75 years, written by my esteemed colleague, Deidre Berger, who led the AJC Berlin office for nearly 2 decades. But the threads of that story are so powerful because they show an organization that understood that the strategy of engaging Germany, the strategy of trying to advance its democracy and embedding democracy as part of the German value system and ensuring that Germany would turn westward was not something that was overnight. It was not something that was simple. And it was certainly not something that was linear, that would simply move from A to B to C. There were any number of setbacks along the way in this effort by AJC leaders to engage Germany. The setbacks were many. For one thing, not every German was really eager to engage with the Jewish organization. Not every German was prepared to simply denazify overnight. Not every German was prepared to confront their own history. But AJC found this kind of unique way of looking forward without ever losing sight of the past and focusing on the broader themes, as I said, of democracy and peacefulness and rule of law, but also on the specific themes of the particular responsibility of post-war Germany to the Jewish people. And so step by step through the 1950s and the 1960s, this process moved forward. And we never lost sight of the past, but we began to see the elements moving Germany forward. Germany became a part of this 6-nation European integration project, whose core element was to establish peaceful relations, particularly between Germany and France. Later on, Germany became a member of NATO, an important ally of the United States. And under the leadership of Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, Germany not only confronted its past vis-a-vis the Jewish people and issues of restitution and indemnification, but no less importantly, its relationship with Israel, which of course had been established after the war in 1948. So yes, along the way, there were lots of setbacks. The discovery that there were some German scientists working in Egypt and helping Egypt to develop missiles that would be targeted at Israel. There were setbacks with Bitburg and the visit by President Ronald Reagan with Chancellor Helmut Kohl that frankly should never have been. There were accusations that some German chemical companies were providing dual-use technology to Libya, to Iraq, and elsewhere. There were lots of issues along the way. But the more we went forward together, the more we came to realize that we didn't have to argue these issues from a distance with fiery press releases. Rather, we were developing a network of relationships and a foundation of trust with a number of German officials, beginning with the chancellors. And that allowed AJC unique access. That also meant that by the year 1989, 1990, which was so consequential for Germany, 1989 being the year the Berlin Wall fell, and 1990, the year of unification. That was a year that challenged a lot of countries around the world, beginning with Germany's immediate neighbors. You know, there was an old French saying that we like Germany so much these days, we'd rather have two Germanys than one Germany. But by 1990, unification was on the table. By that point, AJC had nearly 45 years of engagement with Germany, its institutions, and its leaders, and we had enough trust in Germany that we were prepared to say, go forward with unification with our blessing. We realize there are going to be challenges there, but nonetheless, we have confidence. And indeed, look what's happened in the last 30 years. East and West Germany combined. But it was East Germany that was the non-democratic country. It was East Germany that had rejected any responsibility for German Nazi history. It was East Germany that had been an enemy of the state of Israel. It was East Germany that had given funding and support and training to terrorist groups, including those targeting Jews and Israel. It was East Germany that was a home for the whole anti-Zionism project that surfaced in the United Nations. But when East and West Germany came together, they came together under the value system of West Germany: democracy, responsibility, special relationship with Israel, a welcoming attitude towards Jews. And that allowed us the next seemingly improbable step in 1994, when the American Jewish Committee forged a unique partnership with the German military, known in German as the Bundeswehr. I mean, just imagine the children and grandchildren of the survivors partnering with Germans in uniform in order to try and foster a better world. And then in 1998, the opening of the first International Jewish Office in Berlin by the American Jewish Committee and with the generosity of Lawrence and Lee Raymer. In 2006, celebrating the 100th anniversary of AJC, in the company of President George W. Bush, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. In our 100th anniversary, we wanted to send a message to the world that history can move forward. We need not be prisoners of history. We can be authors of history. And in a way, bringing Angela Merkel in 2006 to Washington was a message: look how history can evolve. And then we fast forward, skipping a lot, of course, to 2020. When we asked ourselves, how can we mark the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the end of the Holocaust? We said, let's go to Berlin. Let's go to Berlin for three reasons: to remember the past, to remember the fact that Berlin was the nerve center for the Endlösung, for the final solution. Berlin was the nerve center for Ravensbrück and Buchenwald and Mauthausen and Auschwitz, for the Einsatzgruppen, for Aktion 1005, for all of the tragedies that befell the Jewish people in the larger world. And we wanted to be there to remember. But we wanted to be in Berlin as well to say, but we recognize the evolution over 75 years of this country from having killed tens of millions of people and brutalized the continent and beyond. But look how history can evolve. Let's all learn the lessons of that evolution of history and to celebrate together what's been achieved with AJC as an important player. And then we wanted to look at the future. We wanted to say, against this backdrop of what we've accomplished together, how can we chart a better future between Germany and the Jewish people, between Europe and the United States, between Europe and Israel? So what we're trying to accomplish in the virtual global forum is we can't offer the bratwurst, we can't offer the pretzels, we can't offer the Wiener Schnitzel, we can't offer the in-person atmosphere. But what we're trying to say is, look at what's been done. Don't get frozen by history. Don't get paralyzed by history. Here is Exhibit A for what can be achieved by an audaciously ambitious, forward-looking Jewish organization that said, we're not going to allow others to write our history. And that brings me to the final message. With all that's been accomplished, why did we invite and why do we attach so much importance to bringing our friend Mohammad Al-Issa from Saudi Arabia, from Mecca, Saudi Arabia, to join us at AJC? Because what we're saying in the 21st century to ourselves and to the larger world is, again, history can move forward with people who are audacious in their ambition, who believe in the possibility of creating a better world. We did it with Germany. The great challenge for us now is to overcome the differences, the wide differences that have so often characterized us and the larger Muslim world. Dr. Al-Issa represents a profound bridge who seeks from his side in representing such an important segment of Sunni Islam to say, we are your partners. We want to shape that better world together. And let's do it. Let's do it together in Berlin, and let's send a message to the world that not only can you look back on what's been accomplished, but let's look forward together at what yet has been accomplished. And I am your partner, and Bawa Jain is your partner. And that's why we're so excited about this virtual global forum. And even though we can't be in Berlin, I hope that what we wanted to convey about the intent of Berlin is something you'll carry through the entire virtual global forum through Thursday, the 18th of June. So thank you so much for joining us. This is the end of the first session of the virtual global forum, and now on to the next session.